How's it going, everybody? Welcome to General Hospital MV, my GH After show. Let's get into it. This week was filled with way more plot twists than last week, my favorite one being the return of a very heavily pregnant Brook Lynn. Valentine dropped by the Quartermaine mansion to try to make a deal with Michael. He said that he would give ELQ back to Michael if he would let Nina spend time with her grandson. And Michael turned him down. If you ask me, that was a stupid move on Michael's part. I mean, let's be realistic here. He's obviously eventually going to let Nina back into Wiley's life again, so this would have been an easy way to get the company back into the family. Now, while this conversation is being had, it's very obvious to us viewers, the audience, that there is someone lurking in the bushes. My mind honestly went straight to Nell because we know she's going to come back eventually at some point, but it turned out to be Brook Lynn. As soon as Valentine left the room, Brook Lynn came in and revealed her precious cargo to Michael, and Michael figured out pretty quickly that Valentine was the father. My favorite part was that Michael tried to give her parental advice, and Brook Lynn's like, bro, you literally slept with a demon. Like, you have no room to give me advice. I loved it. It's true, Michael, you couldn't have had worse luck. Meanwhile, Brook Lynn's father Ned runs into Alexis at Kelly's and decides to have coffee with her. And of course, that's when Dante and Olivia show up, and Olivia is not too happy about it. Dante and Alexis decided to give them some alone time to try to talk things out, but of course it didn't really get anywhere. Eventually, Olivia goes back to the Q mansion by herself and runs into the very heavily pregnant Brook Lynn, and she figures out that Valentine is the father as well because it's very obvious. And she, right off the bat, says, you need to never tell Valentine the truth about his child. Of all the people in Port Charles, Olivia, you should know more than anyone that keeping your child secret from his father can be deadly. Your firstborn got shot by his father because you didn't tell him the truth. Have you learned nothing, Olivia? Nothing at all? Anyway, when Brook Lynn leaves, Olivia decides to call Ned to give him a little bit of a heads up that there is something brewing. She doesn't actually reveal the news to him because it's not her story to tell. But Brook Lynn's a little bit busy. She actually runs into Valentine outside of Kelly's, and I thought that she was going to stretch this out, but she just opens up the jacket and reveals it to him. Valentine's reaction, oh, chef's kiss. The man just laughed out loud, like he was legitimately shocked. I was laughing so hard too. Now, of course, Brook Lynn doesn't want him to be involved in his child's life, and Valentine is like, well, it's your body, but once this child is born, I want to be involved. And Brook Lynn made it obvious that she was not going to make it easy, so Valentine's already calling his lawyer. This is going to be a hot mess. Eventually, she gets back to the Q house and reveals to Ned that she's pregnant, and his reaction was even more priceless, especially when he learns that Valentine was the father. Honestly, Quartermaines and comedy just go so well together. I was living for Ned's reaction. Oh my god, so good. Side note, does anyone besides me think that Brook Lynn might actually have twins? Because that baby bump is actually really huge, and she's supposed to only be 5 months pregnant. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, let's talk about Alexis for a minute. Now, she calls all 3 of her girls to the house and Valentine over to the house and reveals to them that she plans on pleading guilty for the case of attacking Dante. She truly believes that she is better off in jail than out here where she can be tempted by alcohol all the time. Girl, it is called rehab. You do not need to go to jail. I mean, yes, you did commit a crime and that's pretty bad, but you were clearly out of your head and you need some help. Either way, I guess I'm kind of okay with whatever direction the show takes with it, whether she goes to jail or rehab. I'm sure Nancy Lee Grahn is going to do an amazing job with the story. I just hope that if she does go to jail, she actually gets shown on screen. Actually, come to think of it, Alexis in jail would be kind of hilarious. I think there'd be a lot of humorous moments in it. Alright, now let's talk about the fallout from Franco's death. Now, to be honest, I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around the fact that he actually died. Super unexpected. But it did lead to some really fantastic scenes. For instance, Cam was so hurt that he actually goes to visit his real father's grave, Alexander, and Xander actually appeared to him. I swear to God, if I didn't actually know who he was, I would think that he was maybe just a couple years older than Cameron. Aging like fine wine, sir. Ghost Xander tries to convince Cameron not to go down a dark path, but I don't think it worked. But honestly, I'm kind of down to see a dark Cameron. I mean, the dude was kind of doomed to go down a dark path to begin with. I mean, his whole life, all of his father figures either ran away from Elizabeth or they died. Dude has permanent daddy issues. Plus, when you look at Xander and Elizabeth's history as to what they were like when they were Cameron's age, I mean, it's kind of a given. They were complete disasters and we loved them for it. Now the day after was actually Franco's memorial, and for the first time in forever, we actually see Elizabeth's other two kids, Jake and Aiden. It has been so long since we've seen them that Jake is actually almost as tall as Cameron. That's wild. Ava was the one that held Franco's memorial at her art gallery, and she revealed his best work in an exhibit which turned out to be the paintings from all the kids that Franco helped in art therapy. It was a really sweet notion. Okay, let's talk about Jason, because really he's the #1 suspect in Franco's murder, mostly because of his history, but also because Elizabeth is so sure that he did it, and it gets worse. After a completely pointless Jason and Carly-esque conversation between Jason and Carly over the bowl of moss in the kitchen, Jordan comes in and arrests Jason. It turns out that a witness came forward and said that they saw Jason come out of that building where Franco was killed and dispose of that particular gun that killed Franco. Can y'all guess who the witness is? It's Gladys, Brando's mom. Because of course it is. If you guys recall, a few months back, Cyrus did actually meet Gladys before, so it's not that surprising that she'd do anything for a quick buck from him, or anyone for that matter. Cyrus got her a place to stay in Port Charles and got her to say that she saw Jason dispose of that gun that killed Franco. Apparently she had been in town for a bit but didn't bother to visit Brando until he was pretty much getting ready to leave the hospital. Side note, there were some very cute Brando and Sasha scenes. They almost kissed. I lived for it. I want them to be together. I ship them. Sorry, Michael. Actually, no, I'm not. Now the thing is, Gladys actually revealed to Brando that she is the one that got Jason off the streets, so technically he can go to Jason and tell him that, but that might blow his cover. I'm sure he's already thought in his mind that either Cyrus or even Peter framed him, and in both cases he'd be right. We'll get into that in a little bit, but right now we need to talk about Carly for a minute, okay? This girl goes over to Elizabeth's house right after she just finished burying her husband and tries to convince her that Jason is not the one that killed Franco. Listen, I get it. I know that you want to clear Jason's name and you have every right to try to do that, but you literally just finished grieving for your husband and you reamed Nina out for interrupting your grieving process, and now you're doing the same thing to Elizabeth. And Carly knows that Elizabeth isn't the main problem. The main problem is the witness, regardless of what Elizabeth believes. Carly does suggest to Elizabeth to really think about the situation and to really think about the Jason that she knows. She even explains the whole witness situation to Elizabeth and says, does this sound like Jason to you? Is Jason capable of messing up that badly? The one thing that she didn't bring up, which probably would have helped her case even more, is the fact that Carly and Jason discussed that it was potentially Peter that murdered Franco, and if she put that thought into Elizabeth's head instead of just not mentioning it at all, Elizabeth probably would have been like, you know what? That's definitely a possibility. She knows that Peter threw Franco under the bus in that article in The Invader, and she also knows the truth about Peter came out and all the things that he did. She knows why he would want Franco dead. She knows he's tried to kill him before, but she left it out completely. I don't understand. Jason didn't even think to mention that to the commissioner either. I mean, he already said, I did not do this. Why not back it up with a theory, dude? You keep saying that this is the worst time to be in jail, so help yourself out, man. You have a way out of this. Okay, let's talk about Peter. Now we have to rewind things back to the beginning of the week. At the beginning of the week, Jason walked in on Peter threatening Anna at the Invader office, and Peter couldn't get out there fast enough. Jason actually does tell Anna about his theory that Peter killed Franco, and she thinks it's very plausible. They just need to find the proof. Jason and Anna believe they have an advantage this time because now Peter has no one to hide behind. Little did Jason know that he would get an ally in Cyrus later, and again, we'll talk about that in a bit. Maxie, with the help of Sam, Dante, and Olivia, was clearing Peter's clothes, which I honestly felt kind of weird about. I mean, I have no love for Peter at all, but like, the man's not dead. It's his clothes, like, just give it back to him? Like, it seems weird to me. Anyway, once they leave, Peter actually shows up to talk to Maxie, and he just goes full phase on her. Maxie had to basically tell him exactly what he wanted to hear just to get him out of the house. But he did decide to keep the house keys. Girl, you better change those locks and get yourself a bodyguard. My God, you can afford one by now. You run your own magazine, right? Hang on a second, is Deception a magazine? I kind of forget. I feel like it would be, but I just don't remember. Does anyone know? Let me know. So later, Peter meets up with Cyrus and the two of them make a deal. He would help get Jason off his back, which is mutually beneficial, in exchange for a favor. And we'll talk about that favor in a bit, because this deal leads to another plot twist that I did not see coming in another storyline. Now, unfortunately for Peter, Jason isn't the only one in town gunning for him. Lisa Obrecht being the #1 person that wants him gone, and she decides to meet up with Dante at Nathan's grave and tells him that he needs to complete the mission being he needs to assassinate Peter August. Liesel had stolen Maxie's phone and tells Dante that he needs to text Peter from her phone, get him to meet him where they are, which is at Nathan's grave, and to pull a gun on him and shoot and kill him. At that point, Peter was at Kelly's bragging to Sam that Jason had been arrested for Franco's murder when he gets the text from Maxie. Now, when Peter got to the cemetery, Dante spent so much time holding the gun and explaining all the reasons why he should die that this gave Sam enough time to not only investigate the fact that it wasn't Maxie that called him, but to make her way to the cemetery to stop him from shooting Peter. I was like, are you kidding me? Clearly the WSB's mind control techniques suck, because I don't recall Obrecht saying, tell Peter all the reasons why he deserves to die before shooting him. But yeah, suffice to say, Sam stopped Dante from shooting Peter and Peter ran off. Of course he wants revenge on Dante, but anyway. Dante realizes that he is not in control of his body and that he needs help desperately. Dante was so distraught, and honestly those scenes between Kelly and Dom were so good. Really enjoyed them. Sam takes Dante to General Hospital to get help from Kevin Collins. How mad do you think Dante is going to be if he realizes that he spent all that time at the WSB trying to heal, and all it took was a shrink in town to get him better? All the time away from Lulu, all the time away from Rocco, and all his friends and family for nothing. Alright, let's talk about Chase. This poor man had his world pulled out from underneath him. He visits Willow at the gatehouse, which looks surprisingly like the safe house that Christina had her intervention in, which I guess it's fine. At least the gatehouse exists again in the realm of Port Charles in the Quartermain Mansion property. He reveals to her that Finn could possibly be his dad, and she just grabs the wine because Lord knows he needs it. And the two of them go together to the hospital to meet up with Finn and Gregory and Jackie to see the results of the DNA test. The DNA test reads that Finn is in fact Chase's father. Of course, this leaves everyone completely heartbroken and Chase leaves, but here comes the plot twist. So it turns out that that favor that Cyrus asked Peter for was to release an article in The Invader about that DNA test. Extreme humiliation for all involved, all because Jackie wouldn't reveal to Cyrus where his mother was, but here's the kicker. Cyrus had overheard that conversation between Finn and Jackie in the hospital. If you guys remember, he was lurking in the background and he apparently rigged the DNA test. Finn might actually not be Chase's dad after all. I mean, not that it matters either way at this point because his world already came crashing down, but damn, that's cold. Thankfully, Finn has worked in General Hospital long enough to know that DNA tests aren't always accurate in GH, so he decides that he wants to go to Mercy with Chase's permission. Let's hope Cyrus doesn't catch wind of that. Now, one more thing worth noting this week is that Nina actually decides to leave Port Charles for a little while to get away. I thought that maybe the actress was going on vacation. Turns out she's just going to visit Phyllis at the Tano, and she was seconds away from seeing Sunny, and I am now interested in the story, kinda. I am here for the mess. I mean, realistically, the story could go any way at this point. On the one hand, she could bring Sunny back to Carly and get in her good graces and use that to try and see Wiley again sooner rather than later. Or she could just go and have full revenge on Carly by having a romance with this man and then coming back to Port Charles with him in tow and pissing Carly off even more. I don't really know which way I want her to take it. I mean, I want Nina to be smart and have time with her grandson, but you know, the drama, it could be really good. I want to see it, kinda. Carly kinda deserves it. Just saying. Anyway, what route do you guys want Nina to take? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, we wrap up General Hospital Envy this week. Let me know what you thought of the whole show in the comments below as well. Stay tuned this Wednesday. I am reacting to some classic Helena Cassadine scenes. Join me on that day. And if you liked this video here, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you guys this Wednesday. Peace out. Congratulations.